You're listening to the Theologies Podcast with Ben Knight and Rob Royce.
Welcome back to the Theologies Podcast. I am Ben Knight.
I'm Rob Royce.
And we are sitting here in Rob's office doing the podcast. And,
before we get into anything else, I think we could actually say a word or two, because Ben and I talk about this a lot. And we want to say a little something about our podcast. We were talking about our quality level as our actual recording quality level. And if anybody's listening for the first time and you're thinking, well, where do I start? Or if you have a friend you want to share the podcast with, we were just talking about this morning. Like, so where do we send them? We should send them to like episode 6 to start, right?
Episode 6. So like if this is the first time you're listening, well, by the way, thank you for listening.
Of course.
And thank you to everyone who is listening. If you're listening to this, like we had a hard time. Or not even a hard time. Like, we had some glitches. There were some things in the first couple of podcasts where the actual audio quality suffered a little bit. We weren't quite ready, but we were kind of gung ho to get started. And
that's a big deal, because if you're going to start something that's it's relatively foreign to our talking to each other isn't, but doing it in front of a microphone, and these are the sort of things that if you throw too many roadblocks in the way, and you let them be roadblocks, we never do get a podcast up and running.
No, I mean, if you let that stuff, like whether it's microphones, whether it's that we actually had an episode where we didn't have, like, right now we have microphone covers. So like, because like when you hit your P's,
they pop.
They pop. So if you're a musician or if you've ever been in a studio, like there are things called and there are things called P poppers. So it's screened so your P's don't pop. Well, we didn't have those, so you heard a lot of on everything we said. So there again, we weren't quite ready. Also, it just took us a couple of episodes to kind of figure out where we wanted to go and how we wanted it to go every episode. So by episode 6, we finally had a rhythm and kind of the format we wanted to go with. Plus, I think on episode 1, which I do like and I have listened to, because actually that's not that we have giant egos. I'm like, I love listening to myself. It's so amazing. But I like to go back and listen to them just to be like, all right, where were we?
Where have we gone? What have we done?
It's kind of like it's like looking at old pictures, or like it's like, oh, where have we come from? Where have we? Which is so funny.
I used to be skinny.
Which is funny because like I make it sound like we started this thing 5 years ago, and we actually started it
5 weeks ago,
like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
But no, and it is funny because we do talk about that because we do want to make sure. We don't want to. You only get one chance at a first impression. We've all heard that,
yeah.
And we don't want our first impression to be like, "Holy cow, that first episode is like 3 hours long," and it's not. How come that's different from what they're doing now?
Let's pretend for a second that we've got listeners who want to share our podcast with somebody, and they are going to send somebody to our podcast. What are they gonna hear in episodes 1, 2, 3 that we're talking about?
Well, you're going to hear, I suppose
like
the first...
the P-popper thing.
The P-popper thing, you're going to hear, like the first episode, it's, we were trying different microphones at the time. And so there was a lot of weird noise that we had to try to filter out, but then that also affected the...
Yeah, and basically we were trying to use real studio microphones, which they're famous for picking up everything. And that's great when you want to pick up everything.
Yeah, not when you're like, I mean, we could hear a small rodent in the sanctuary farting on a piece of cotton in here. And not that happens, by the way. Our church is very clean.
That's true. But no, that's the sensitivity level. That's the, they picked up everything. And as we were listening back, it's like, well, that's not what we want. When you're in the environment, it's cool because and then plus it makes I think vocals sound amazing. Spoken word sounds amazing on a studio microphone.
Well,
but,
and where we're at, like we're in Rob's office at the church, and like it's not soundproof. I mean, if somebody were to drive by, we'd hear it. If we're actually fairly close to the train tracks, so if a train went by, you'd
here's
hear that.
the moms group that plays
Moms
out here.
group.
Yep.
There might be you never know. There could be a Bible study outside. There could be Rob's phone, which I mean, all is fine in certain aspects, but with certain microphones, and we're not saying anything that if you know. If you don't know, like what we're saying is these particular microphones we're picking up everything.
And then in episode 1, if I'm not mistaken, we were trying to use a different recorder that actually there's something faulty or something in it because it was putting a buzz into our.
Something was going on. It was a weird. Yeah, it was just it just wasn't working right. So by episode 3 or 4, I can't remember which. We got the problems fixed. So the audio quality, like what you're hearing right now, is what you heard, probably going from like 5, 6 till now.
Okay. And then we were obviously just getting going, trying to figure ourselves out. So and we're not trying to be vain about it, because if you want to send somebody to episode 1 and you've got a reason for that, that's fine. But we're just, as we've been talking to people, Ben has been pointing out, hey, don't start at episode 1, and we just thought let's clue you in as to why.
We'll do a little PSA, a little the more you know.
The more you know, yeah. If you're sending people to our podcast, maybe start them at episode 6. You're saying?
Yeah, I would say 6, because that's and again, like that's from 6 on is kind of like where
we're at now.
That's where we're at now. That's our format. If you're listening every week, you'll notice like we do a little bit of banter. We do our top 10. We kind of get into the, whatever the meat and potatoes are of the podcast, and it's kind of always going to go that way for the most part, unless it's something different, or we also do the coffee podcasts and stuff like that.
And we did the top 10 right from the start too, so it'll still be the same deal. Just
it'll always be the same kind of format. I mean, hopefully we'll have some guests come in and different things like that, but for the most part, yeah, from 6 on to
where
we're at now, that's just how it's going to be. Okay. That's how we're going to roll.
Cool. So, okay, little public service announcement as we begin. Otherwise, that's all I wanted to say.
The more you know. No, it's interesting. It's been fun. Like I said, on social media, people are really getting engaged, and I don't say that again. I don't say that to put us on a pedestal. I'm not like, oh, look at all the friends we have now. That sounded like Mr. Burns. I'm like, Smithers, look at all the friends. But it's so funny. And this is exactly what we wanted. We want to engage you guys on social media. We want to engage you guys, email and all that stuff. But it's just fun to see. It's fun to see how excited people are, because we're like, even though when we sit here, like we don't sound like we're super pumped up. Well, we do after we drink some coffee, but
we will after we drink some coffee.
But we are like it's exciting to like, it's fun for Rob and I to get together and just hang out and talk. But it's really fun when we get to talk about the Bible and things that people are often confused by, things that we're confused by, things that
and now we're hearing from a lot of you listeners on and things that we're not talking about on the podcast.
Yep.
We love your questions. We've been getting a ton of them, and we've been I don't know, a ton of that makes it sound like we're
quite a few. I mean,
we actually are getting quite a few.
We are getting quite a few, and the ones that I have the most problems with. Or not problems, the ones that I can't eloquently speak on. I'm usually texting Rob. I'm like, hey, buddy, give me your. I can only give him the nickel tour. You give him the $5 tour.
Well, and that's fine. And we did that. I did one yesterday, and I love it. So keep them coming. Join the conversation, even if it's off topic for what we've been talking about. On the podcast.
Absolutely. In fact. That's perfectly fine if it is off topic, because you never know the
maybe
thing
even
you
better
because then I mean, if we've already talked about it, we can be like, well, we can answer your question, or you can just go back and listen to that podcast and really get the, like I said, really get the whole enchilada. But if you guys bring up, honestly, some of these questions are really good. Some of these questions we probably will. We probably will expand on in later podcasts. They're that good. So and they're questions that I think that. I think first of all, I think they're very important. I think there are a lot of people, I think, so far, a lot of the questions we've been getting, even myself, even as many as, 5-10 years ago, I would have been asking the exact same question. Because it's a legitimate question.
Totally.
And from a Christian perspective, some of these questions and a lot of the stuff we talk about, or we have talked about, are things that may or may not be talked about in churches right now. And some of them that are being talked about, they're not. Sometimes there are scriptures that'll get twisted, or they fit into sometimes a scripture is like trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and that's okay. But because I think what happens is when a scripture gets twisted or repurposed to fit a specific idea, then because they're like, I can't put this square peg in the round hole, I got to make it round.
I think part of what happens there, kind of what you're talking about, would be when a church, we got a couple different kinds of churches. We have ones that are modern, and they're doing a lot of things to make themselves modern. They're using screens. They're using modern rock music. The pastor dresses in, he looks like a hipster, or he's even wearing a T-shirt, got tattoos, stuff like that, and his hair is done by one of those people who's known only by their first name, and you have that kind of church, and that church is obviously trying to appeal to those who've never been to a church before, or they're absolutely sick of what they would associate with what I'll call a traditional church. A traditional church that whether the building is new or old, this church has been doing its thing for the last 400 years. They come from a pattern. They come from a heritage of doing this for 400 years. And that kind of church, this isn't a mistake, but this is where it loses people, because it's very much on purpose. That the church assumes that you're a Christian. That's why you're coming. The church assumes that you understand all the terminology that they use because you read your Bible. They assume that you're going to be on board with their practices being biblical and traditional, and a lot of people might not like that. And so I think that's maybe where you're talking about forcing a square peg through a round hole.
Because there are a lot of Christians who, and I'll use the word ignorant, and because I actually would put myself in that camp of, there's a difference between being an ignorant Christian and a dumb Christian. Right. An ignorant Christian is someone who just doesn't know. Like, there's just some things you just don't know, and so you have to. Because I put myself in that category, because there are things where I will text Rob and I'll be like, "So I've been thinking about this."
Yeah.
And like, this is how I've always looked at it. And then Rob and I'll have a little discussion. I'm like, "Oh, okay. Okay." Because it's not. Because again, it's finding not just information, but the right the biblical, the scriptural information, the correct scriptural information.
And even understand a church tradition is really important for if you really do believe yourself to be a Christian, and you really do love God, and you love the scriptures, you should also love the church. And part of loving the church means that you also love what God, because Jesus said, "I'm the one who builds the church. The gates of hell shall not prevail against it," says, "I build my church." And so if you want to see, if you love the Savior and you love what he's done in this world, then you got to look to the church. And a lot of the questions people have about church, and actually a lot of the problems people say they have with the church, are things that Jesus is doing in the church. So we got to be careful.
Very much so. Well, and again, like, and it may have sounded like it. We have nothing against. First of all, I have tattoos, so nothing against a pastor who has tattoos, or a more modern church, or modern worship. Because, like, first of all, we're gonna rock worship tomorrow, sir.
Well, and I would say don't have a problem with that form of worship. Also, don't. Unless you've got some biblical reasons, don't have a problem with that. Also, don't have a problem with the ones who like dress up in like all the fancy gowns and who might hum a chant, right before they do something, because these are just forms that worship has taken, church worship has taken, and most of it, I could probably bring you all the way back into the Old Testament, into the tabernacle, and this is where this idea comes from. The reasons that we do it is because God said so. The reasons why this form changed is because of something God said here or there. And we got to be really careful to not slam other practices. But at the same time, really understand the Savior who's built this church into what it is. So fitting square pegs into round holes, sometimes... That's, like you said, that's what we need to have happen to us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, actually, it's funny that you mentioned did I ever tell you the time I actually went to a service one time when I was a kid, and I swear when he was doing the, I was like, I swear to you, I was listening, it's like, Going up to the spirit in the sky. I'm like, what? I'm like, you can't use that. That's not right. I'm like, you can't just be like, what if God was one of us? I'm like, no, you can't fit any song that talks about like, or I'm trying to think of another one. Oh, Jesus is just all right with me. That'd be awesome. I have to admit, though, that'd be pretty funny.
You just check if your congregation is listening.
Oh, that would be hysterical. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, we've gone we're like pinball balls here.
Yeah.
What do we got today? You got something in front of you.
So we're gonna do something a little different today. So we are. This isn't gonna be a specific. This isn't gonna be a Ben and Rob like coffee. But we do, and I don't know. I was telling Rob, I said, I feel like people might think we're snobbish because here we are drinking specialty coffee. We're all like, what do we have today? We have beans that are grown in the volcanic soil of Nicaragua, and this, whatever. It's like
how we roll.
That's how we roll. We're very fancy men. No, not at all. No. Not at all. Literally, like Rob is now finishing up his. I wanted us to have, by the way, we are talking about coffee today, but I bought us like 99-cent Hostess coffee cakes. So
nice.
So clearly we are not we're not fancy men.
Nope.
So, but today, so we've had let's see, we've had Volcanica, we've had PT's coffee, and today we are going to have something that you can get at your local grocery store or just what happens
discount dealer.
Discount dealer, retailer. It's actually called Cameron's Specialty Coffee. So it has specialty coffee in the title. However, this was $5.44 and I bought it at I won't say the name of the place, but it rhymes with Paul Mart. And but
I wonder what that is.
I know it could be, you just don't know. But then this, and I kind of intentionally, because first my thought was, I was like, okay, what should I get? But Rob and I we've both had Folgers, we both had Maxwell House, we both had, and a regional thing here is Caribou Coffee, which is kind of a la Starbucksian. And I even thought about Starbucks. I was like, you know what? No, let's go with something that I figured neither one of us have had. And this will be the first time we've had a light roast. Normally we're medium, we're medium to dark roast.
We're still in a flavored coffee territory there, right?
Yeah, because I believe me, I thought about it because I was like, you know what? For me, I have to.
Sure, that's fine.
Just to see how we roll with this. But this is a chocolate caramel brownie, and it says dessert-like decadence. So it's very decadent, apparently.
All right. Well, and here, before we say too much about it being, it's a $5 coffee, let's pretend for a second that that Volcanica or PT's wanted to get their product into Paul Mart, and the way I understand these deals go is they would say, all right, we see that your suggested retail price is $15.99 per 12 ounce. You're going to have to sell it to us for $3.75.
Well, and what's funny though, Walmart actually, whoops.
They're not sponsoring.
They're not sponsoring because
it
doesn't matter. Well, here's the thing. There actually is there are two brands at Paul Mart.
At the store?
At the store.
When we live in a town like this, we can just say the store.
The store. Isn't that funny? Like, well, cause there is a grocery store, but more than likely, if somebody goes, I'm going to the store, you mean you're going to Walmart.
Well,
I mean, Paul Mart.
The grocery store, when do they close? Like 6 p.m.? So who can actually shop there?
Yep.
I've been in there, I've lived here 7 years, and I've been in there, I can count on one hand. And I'm not sure. Well, anyway.
Wow.
They're not going to sponsor us either now.
But no. Well, what's interesting is they do have a couple, and I'm not going to name them yet, just in case we decide to try them one of these days. But there actually are two specialty coffees in Walmart that are still expensive, like a bag this size. This is a 12-ounce bag, and they're like $20-$25. So, but I just didn't want people to think we're all snob. Like we're sitting here with a monocle and cape, and we're like using one of those, whatever you call them, like if we smoked, we'd have one of those cigarette sticks that you stick the cigarette in. We're sitting here like, well, actually, Rob and I are going to enjoy this rather. No, not at
people
all.
have us pretty well figured by now. I
would
guarantee it.
I would hope so. They're like, wow, listen to these two bozos.
They think they're $15 coffee people, huh?
Yeah, and these are people. Some of these people are like, oh, really? And they
really are.
They're drinking like that cat poop coffee. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Oh, yes, I do.
Is it an ocelot or something? Like it's like some sort of
the bean. They put it through the system first.
Yes,
and
they
somehow
put it through. That's a good way of putting it. They put it through the system.
No. Anyway, this is Cameron's. Are we giving it the 5 bean run through?
You know what? We might as well. So we'll do Cameron's specialty coffee. And again, this is like Rob said. You know, I'm such a wiener. So like we will do just plain old roasts probably coming up.
What are our 5 categories again?
I'm looking that up right now because I want to make sure I know the majority of them, but I just want to make sure I'm
going to try to get my math right today.
Okay, the 5 bean system. So it is taste,
smell,
balance.
That's right.
Value and packaging. That's the 5 bean system, people. We're all about it. So today, this is a 12-ounce bag of light roast chocolate caramel brownie Cameron's coffee, and So let's
go for it.
Let's go ahead and try it. Let's see what we got here. Let's give it the old. Okay, and so today,
I should say I did not make this up to my normal strength, and I did that on purpose.
It's interesting. I'm gonna try something. So I told Rob, normally I would put I do like something in my coffee. So today I'm gonna try the coffee as I just took a drink, and I'm gonna add a little bit of 2% milk here. Normally I'm a 1%er. You wouldn't know by my gut, but I like 1% milk. Let's see here. Let's give this a try. Okay. Do you have so far? Okay, so
okay.
Do you have a taste number?
I'm going to give it a 2.
Wow, interesting. Well, here's what I'll say. Do you ever use cream in your coffee?
No.
Never ever? Okay. Okay.
Never have.
I was gonna give you this to see. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna say. I am also going to give it a 2.
Copycat.
So and when we and here's I'm gonna throw this out there though. When I added the milk, I would actually give it a 3. It actually tastes better.
Well, sure.
So you can. Here's what I'll say with the taste. You can actually taste the chocolate and the caramel. I think you can taste the chocolate and the caramel.
I'd agree with that.
When you add the milk, which I didn't add a ton, just a little bit, it really, you can really taste it.
Huh.
But it's 2%. So, I mean, let's see. How much sugar is in this?
Probably a lot.
Yeah. I mean, like, in the whole thing, there's like 23. There's 23 grams of. This is just a little milk. This is 1 pint. So I mean, there's a lot of sugar in milk. So I mean, you're literally adding sugar to it. So it's going to taste a little bit better anyway. Or if you like that sort of thing. But my reason, I'll give you my reason for giving it a 2.
Well, before you do that, let me just say that my joke for any of you guys who use cream in your coffee is that if you use cream, sugar, milk, whatever, in your coffee to make it taste the way you want,
you don't like coffee.
It probably means you don't like the coffee, but that's not necessarily true. So you give it a 2, and what's your reason?
My reason. Well, first of all, and man, this will not be. I will not be mentioning that we drink. Well, I'll mention it, but I certainly won't tag them in our posts because it just. I'll be honest with you. It's a light. It says it's a light roast.
And that might be. I still made it stronger than the recommendation,
but it's. I mean, well, first of all, like when it came out, like it was very syrupy looking.
Yeah, it's dark.
It's very dark, which is normally fine.
Yeah.
But, well, first of all, like, what does it say on the top? I think it's. Hold on. This will. Okay, it says always smooth, never bitter. So I'm gonna have to call bullcrap on that because it's not bitter,
right?
But it's got like a burnt like. sour. I'm trying to think of how. I mean, it does. It like it. You know what it tastes like? You know what it tastes like? It tastes like break room coffee, or like or like hospital. Like if you were to walk up to the, if you're in the hospital and you walk up to the counter and there's that coffee pot sitting there. That's what it tastes like to me.
I don't know. I like it better than that. Like, keep in mind, when I give something a 2, like, I will drink one bean coffee out of our five bean system. I'll drink one bean all day long. So I don't hate it. But I will say that the aftertaste lingers a long time.
Dude, I'm going to be tasting this like next week.
And it makes me wonder if the flavors that we tasted in PTs and Volcanica actually came from some real, like, they're like putting, like, grating tangerine peel into.
Well, that's the thing.
Because this, I think, is a chemical.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it says on here on the side. So it says ingredients: 100% specialty grade Arabica. Is it Arabica? I don't know. Coffee, with natural and artificial flavors. So
and I think the artificial flavor, like, I could, how I said that one time that the higher quality the bean, the closer to the front of your tongue you taste it. I'm tasting this one way back there, and I'm tasting like some weird thing up like by my ear.
Yeah, see, I was just saying that too. Like, I can taste it in the back of my jaw. I can taste it in my intestines right now.
Right.
It's like,
and I think that it has a distinct, like, chemical thing going on. And
I think so.
There's even, like, major coffee house places that I'll go where, I'll order. I think I'm ordering a dark roast, and I'm sure maybe it is a dark roast bean, but it gets a certain depth to the flavor, and I think they use a chemical to do that, because I'll get a headache if I drink it. And so I've kind of been figuring out, I think there's maybe there's some additives here.
That's what it is. I mean, when you first taste it, it's not bad. It's not bad, but
it's artificial.
But the second you swallow, it just, like, sits there on the back of your tongue.
Yep.
It's, you know what it is? It's like having somebody that comes and stays with you, and you're ready for them to leave, but they won't go. That's how this is. This is like that annoying friend of yours who, like, you were friends with in high school, who still hasn't gotten his life together, and he comes and stays with you and your family, and you're like, I want you to leave. That's how this coffee is.
So the taste is, I think the taste is all right. Like I said, 2. I gave it a 2. Ben's.
I'm telling you, man. That it's so sour on that back end, that aftertaste.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So Ben's generous with the 2. I'm firmly at 2, because the initial taste of it tastes.
The initial taste is good.
Yeah, and we'll get to the balance part of it, but I think they also do a nice job of making it taste like coffee and like the flavoring. But that might have to do with the chemical too. So anyway.
Yeah.
So the next one, how did you like the smell?
The smell, when you open the bag, smells good.
Yeah.
I would say this is the first coffee, and I think this is actually where the artificial comes into play.
Yep.
After it was brewed, it still smelled really, really good, really strong, really, really good.
Yeah.
So if I'm just going by smell, not what caused the smell,
yep.
I'm going to give it a 4.5 for smell.
Really?
I think it smells really well. You know what? No, let's go 4.
Okay.
Let's go 4. Because I think it smells really, really good. But now, in hindsight, I know why it still smells really, really good. So maybe that's part. I mean, it's hard to separate that from. I mean, it smells good.
Sure.
It smells good.
I'm going to give it a 3, and I might not take the time to explain. It's it's like sheer conjecture. Like, and if you'd have come in and told me, "Hey, Rob, this is $20," and if I hadn't known the difference.
You've been like, you got ripped off, son.
And I want to say, and it's going to sound like BS, but I want to say that it smelled like a cheaper coffee. And like and I don't even know what I would say. Oh, it's this aroma that gave it away. I don't know what it is. But initially there's something about the smell of it that makes me think, hold on a second. It smells good. It smells like coffee. It smelled, it made me want to brew it up, but it also had a be careful here. There's an artificial flavor here.
Yeah, and that's really kind of, and I'll be honest with you, that's kind of what I like about so far with PTs and with Volcanica, is I think you're right. Like when you tasted that, well, because let's see, so to give you an idea, so like on the PTs, So the flavor notes on the PTs are chocolate, tangerine, and roasted almonds.
Yep.
Like when we tasted this coffee, like, and for me it was a little bit bitter for me.
Okay.
But which I think in the more podcasts, and actually I would even like to try PTs again with a little bit of cream in it.
We could do that.
But everything that we tried that they said we would taste, we tasted. I mean, you could taste every one of those
that's
elements, but it didn't taste like. It wasn't like, oh, it was something that was put in there. Like,
I don't think it was a tangerine flavored chemical here, a chocolate flavored chemical here.
No, I think literally as they were roasting these beans, like there was tangerine, there was
they're
dark
grating
chocolate.
they're grating the tangerine peel into the coffee bean.
Where this
whatever.
you taste it and you just go, because there's certain things like, since we're talking about Walmart or Paulmart, depending on who you are. No, but like I do like. I mean, occasionally I do like buying I don't know what they call it. It used to be like Sam's Choice, but it's those flavored waters.
Great value.
The great value. So like you know going in like there's so much chemical in that's barely water. Like because to get it to taste like that,
Electrolytes.
well, because like because it's basically pop, but it's it's like it's like it's like clearly Canadian, but
You're talking about the sparkling water.
Yeah.
Oh.
So like that stuff, like nobody put blackberry into that stuff. Like no, that's just chemicals.
Well, it is curious how and I think we've talked about this before because we did a pop episode. We did the pop top 10, and it strikes me that you can still get a 20-ounce bottle of pop for the same price today, regardless of inflation, for the same price that you could get it for in 1992, and why? How do they do that? Either inflation is bullcrap, or the ingredients in this pop is getting cheaper.
Well, it's hard to say because like we were talking about this yesterday because for reasons that we'll talk about later. Okay. But like a 2 liter, like most of the time now, like if you go to Walmart,
yeah,
a 2 liter bottle. It used to be a 2 liter bottle of pop would be like 99 cents years ago. That's how much it would be. Now it's more like $1.78, something like that.
But their store brand you can still get for 67 cents.
Yeah, and so like if you were to just go to any gas station in America, well I'll use us regionally here. You go and you get a 20-ounce bottle of pop. It's going to be over $2.
Like
and
you'll see them for like $2.90. But here's what I'm talking about: is that there's always the deal, and it's in at our local gas station here. You walk in and there's always the deal with Mr. Pibb, that's Coke's version of Dr. Pepper, with Mellow Yellow or some sort of orange and maybe one other flavor, and they'll do that for $1.19.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that's what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, once upon a time, all the 20-ouncers were $1, were 99 cents or $1.15 or whatever. And then you could still get the cheaper ones that were more like 49 cents. My only point is you can still get the name brand soda for $1.19 in certain stores. Then that's what it's always sold for. And I'm wondering if inflation really is like, if our dollar is devalued and all that stuff like that, how can they do that? How can they still make that for that price? And if you pay more than $2 for, that's some store, that's their own marketing, that's where they're saying, hey, we're leaving a lot of money on the table. People will pay the $2, $2.20 or whatever for a 20-ounce bottle of pop if we market that. And most of us don't even think about it. We're not going,
because
I'm going to the next convenience store.
Well, we are two of those people. Like
for sure.
If I want a pop and I want one bad enough, even if it was $3, I'm going to pay for it because I want it. Like that's, and
yeah. And they figured out how, like, there's probably all kinds of science. So I think the price of it isn't at $2.20 because they need it to be. They've realized that they can get that, kind of like at a movie theater. Hey guys, we can get $4.50 for this.
Which I'll be honest with you, It's still like we barely ever go to the movies, but when we do, and I mean it is kind of part. And Rob and I've been to a few movies together. Like you hate it, and you hate yourself because you're like, I don't want to pay $18 for a popcorn and a small drink.
But you do it.
But you do it, and
so they just figured out in their over the course of time that they can do that, and that's why the 20-ounce cherry Pepsi is $2.22. But they'll sell you a Pib for $1.19. Well, guess what? I guarantee it takes just the same amount of money to make the Pib as it does to make the cherry Pepsi.
But, however, though, Mr. Pibb, the reason Mr. Pibb is so cheap is he didn't go to medical school.
I suppose.
So Dr. Pepper
is
is
Mr.
like,
Pibb.
Yeah, it's just Mr. Pibb.
Yeah,
so
he doesn't have to pay the malpractice insurance that everybody else does.
Exactly. He didn't get his master's. Right.
That's the reason.
He got an associate's at the local business college. He wasn't an 8-year student.
All right, never mind then. But we get these. All right, I don't even remember how we got on that.
Well, I think we were comparing like the idea that, again, going into prices versus like coffee and why it's so cheap and why it's. But I mean, if we're talking about that, like, let's go to balance.
Okay.
Balance, because it's a scale from 1 to 5.
Yeah.
It's going to get a solid 1 from me.
Okay.
It's, as far as balance goes, it's because it's completely unbalanced. Is the reason, because when you taste it, right when it hits your tongue, you're like, oh, this isn't bad. And then immediately after you swallow, it's like, this was a bad decision.
No, that's right. That aftertaste lingers on a chemical. And I'm pretty sure if they could write into us and go, that's not a chemical, that's this. And it's like, I don't care if it's natural.
That's when I hit
chemical.
That's when I hit them with the Steven Crowder, and I'm like, there's chemical in that. Change my mind.
Right.
Prove it. Show me.
Even if it's natural, it's like that. I didn't. All right. If I had to choose, like the PTs and the Volcanica with their nice real flavoring, whatever, it's like it all the balance goes away. Like the taste kind of disappears all together, and this one, it leaves you with stuff and leaves you smacking, going, what am I tasting?
Well, and the thing is, and it almost sounds like you weren't being negative, but I can see where it can sound negative. But like when Rob says like it goes away, like it means it slowly just dissipates. Like it doesn't, it's pleasurable because it goes away without leaving anything behind that's bad. Where this is just,
it leaves the worst part of what it is, and it is still there.
It's like at first, because it almost makes me angry, because it's almost like it fools you. It's like you take a big drink and you're like, hello, I'm here to brighten your day. And then on the aftertaste, it's like, I'm here to stay. And guess what? I taste like you just licked the back of a school bus.
You can check out anytime you like.
Oh,
but you can never.
Yeah, that's what this is. This coffee is Hotel California. That's what this coffee is.
I'm with you on the one. Let's do one. Value.
Isn't it funny?
Yeah.
We're gonna be like, Cameron's, they're the Hotel California of coffee. And people are like, oh, that's awesome, right? Because like that's the greatest. No, that's the worst.
Well,
oh boy. Value. Well, okay. I'm gonna put it at a 1.
What?
I have a good explanation for why. Because for me personally, because I'll be honest with you, I'm never going to drink this again.
Really?
So,
all right.
So this will be in Rob's office. Rob can choose to drink it later on.
With those other ones sitting here, I probably won't go.
Well, so value to me, it is value less.
Okay.
Because even at $5.44 before taxes, I'm done. I didn't even drink half of my cup of coffee. So to me,
that's true. You set it aside.
This is a 0.
So
I can't give it
clear.
I can't give it a 0, so I have to give it a 1. Yeah.
Well, let's see. Did we promise that every single category was going to get at least a 1?
At least a 1, because we can't because we're positive guys. We can't just be like, this is a 0.
Well, see, I've also said that I'll drink a 1 bean coffee all day long, and that's probably true. I wouldn't have a problem in a pinch going and buying this one again, because I don't, like I said before, I don't hate it. I understand where you're coming from. Now we gotta also clarify, maybe we beat this one, but clarify that Ben is not a coffee drinker. I'm
not, but you know what though? After several shows of drinking coffee, I like coffee.
Well, sure, but I mean, but it's. Do you have a pot on?
No,
every day.
No, I mean,
I will twice a day.
I will have a cup a day.
Sure. No, I go through like 2 pots of coffee a day without exaggerating at all.
I think with this though, like here's the thing. If I would never. Okay, this is gonna sound mean.
Sure.
If I really wanted a cup of coffee and this was my only option, I would just go without coffee.
That's what I'm talking about.
Where you would be like, that's all there is. I'll take it.
Let's go. So I'm gonna rate this now. Keep in mind that my value, like if I were to give something a 5 bean rating for value, it's gonna be that one that I keep talking about, that 3-pound bag for like $7 or $8. That I still think, for the most part, taste wise, balance wise, and all that, runs with these big boys. And so that would be my, like, you get that for, I forget how much it is, $9 for 3 pounds. That would be a, like, how do you beat that value? This is just like those are. When they want $15 for a 12-ounce bag, they get a really low rating for value because of the, even though it's high quality, they give you so little for what you're paying for compared to the giant 3-pound bag. We're kind of in the same ballpark with this, is that, all right, it's 12 ounces, it's only $5. It's still up against my 3-pound bag, but the quality level really isn't anywhere near these boutique brands. And I don't think I'm going to give it a 1, but I am going to give it a 2 because the value, for another $1, I can go get 3 pounds instead of 3/4 of a pound and like it way better. So
way better.
Well, and the other ones I would have to say, no, the Volcanica, the PTs, I think they are better than my 3-pound bag, but this isn't. So this one's getting a low value for me. What did I say I was going to give it? 2. Yeah.
I think that, honestly, I think that's fair.
Well, because I got to go hours to go to the store that gives me the 3-pound bag, and I got to think about if I ran out of my coffee that I like, and I got to go to the local store to get something, I'm just to fill my pot like I normally do, I might buy it. So it's not bad. I'm going to give it a 2.
And then that brings us to the packaging. Now this is a little unfair because packaging, to me, that's just like a fun thing. It's like, oh well, how's the packaging? Is it nice? Is it whatever?
I would say, you know what? It's perfectly average. It's fine. I would say
you're exactly right. I would say this is probably it's not fancy.
Nothing particularly fun.
No,
it doesn't lie.
It doesn't lie. It doesn't. Well, it lies a little bit. It says never bitter. I don't know.
No. I mean the advertising on the package might, but I mean it's a coffee bag. In fact, it's the exact same bag the Volcanica came in. It's just the printing is
more
different.
or less. The printing's just different. So I would say, overall, I'm going to give it a 2.5 because it's average. It's right there in the middle. It's just.
I'm going to say 3.
There's nothing. How was it? Actually, you opened it. How was it to open?
Easy. And
okay.
I don't know if that should worry us, like the ones where you got to pull and you need a scissor to actually snip it open. I don't know if that means there's a better seal and it's going to be higher quality. I don't know any of that. But this one, as I tugged on it, it opened very nicely. No challenge. And it has the nice wire handle thing where you can roll it up and fold it up, and it's all the things that I want a coffee bag to be.
It's exactly what you would expect, like a mass produced.
Yeah, and it was perfectly fine, and there's no, like, the PTs was like a wow, look at what they did here. Oh, I like that. They had a whole bunch of those sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
This one's just perfectly.
It's just
fine.
It's a run of the mill coffee bag,
and so I don't mind it, and so I'm going to give it just a 3. 3 is actually average because it's hard to get a 5, right?
I think I did, because did I have another 0.5?
No, you were.
You know what?
1.125.
You know what? Just to because I've been thrashing it pretty good. Go ahead and give him a 3. Give him a 3. That'll be our average packaging 3. So Rob's going to add those up, and let's see. We had it, by the way. We did have a few comments about your math skills. So this is where you have to redeem yourself right here.
Fat chair.
So Rob's going to add those up and average them, and no. So this is fun. I mean, like I said, even though this is not my cup of tea, no pun intended. Maybe there are people, Rob, who are listening to this and going, you know what? I was going to get Cameron's. Guess what? Now I'm not. Or they might go, you know what? I want to see if they were wrong. Because you might, honestly, there might be people listening to this right now. They're like, hey man, Cameron's is my favorite. You guys suck.
That's possible.
But this, again, we're just going by our own. We're not, I don't go places, and I'm not a professional taste tester. So this is just my thoughts and Rob's thoughts. But I don't know. This I think is going to be probably the lowest score.
Well, so okay, let's think about this. And I've checked my math many times just because of fiasco last time. Volcanica we gave an 8 together.
And you know what? We might have to go back. I think because at the time we didn't have the 5-bean system.
I'm wondering it's going to be at least an 8.
So
Volcanica rocked.
So I think we'll have to go back and do Volcanica probably one more time with the new 5-bean system.
What did we give PTs? Was that 7.2? I think that was 7.2.
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Well, it wasn't. Well, no, it wasn't 7. It was a. Well, it was.
Yeah.
Well, separately, I think mine was like a 3.48 or something like that, and yours was like a 3.78 or something. I can't. It's on the podcast,
but I might have saved it because
you got to take the old notes. At least this episode, it didn't sound like you were peeing again. You just you weren't. There was no pouring coffee into the mic.
We're less excited about it than we were in the past.
Which I'll be honest with you, now I understand why this particular brand I was definitely less excited.
Well, and it shows in our scores because the two expensive coffees get respectively an 8, 7.2. This one comes in at a 4.4.
And that's total.
That's total. Because now remember, I scored PTs a total of 19. That was my score for PTs was 19. This one comes up at
that means we gave it an 8.8 total.
No,
we had a 4.4.
No, that's our total together. Remember, we take the whole your score plus my score divided by 5. Last time I forgot to carry.
What was our individual
11?
Scores?
We each scored at the same 11.
Oh, okay. So that would have been
22 divided by 5.
So is that a 2 point? Is that so? It's a 2.2
each.
Okay, so yes, we both gave it a 2. Oh boy, yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I almost feel like that was a little bit generous. Generous.
Well, it doesn't sound like that big of a spread when we take our scores individually. PT's got a 3.8 from me, and this gets a 2.2 from me. So that doesn't sound like it's that big of a.
So you add them together, and you
add them together and go, wow,
4.4 out of 10.
The composite score, it does start to reflect that compared to the other ones, we actually really don't. Although I will take another cup if you don't mind.
Well, then, and also, here, you keep talking.
Okay. Well, I ran out of things to say.
Well, here's what I'll say.
Okay.
You can hear me right now.
I can hear you right now.
So with PTs and with Volcanica. By the way, sorry, I just committed a cardinal sin in coffee drinking.
Which is?
I just committed a cardinal sin in coffee drinking, where I actually handed Rob the mug first and not handle first.
Oh,
because that's bad etiquette. But no, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I really didn't like this coffee.
Okay, so Ben. I'm not a coffee snob, but I think Ben might be.
I wouldn't say well, here's what I'll say, and we can move on from it. But you know how they say you get what you pay for. Like for me, to me, there is a certain line of quality. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, look, I'll eat a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese, no problem.
Sure. $1.15.
Is it gourmet? No, but do I find it delicious? Sometimes.
Probably chemical.
Yeah, but that's a chemical I can get behind. Cameron's, I can't get behind that. I can't do it.
Well, and if you're coffee might be a, what do they call it? Like you acclimate to it. It's a, what do they call that?
When you what? Sorry, I was. I don't know what I was.
I know the word was escaping me. Acquired taste.
Oh, yeah.
It might be an acquired taste, and I know it was for me. So if you're just kind of at the beginning of acquiring the taste for it, like Ben said, he would not drink coffee if it was like this.
Like
he said,
look, if you're looking to acquire the taste of like mosquito spray, I recommend Cameron's.
Well, you drank a quarter of your cup even after you added the milk, which you like, and you still set 3/4 of your cup aside.
I'll be honest, I really don't like that aftertaste. It
is there. I mean, I'm still
I imagine it's what evil tastes like. Like if evil had a flavor, it's that aftertaste.
Okay.
But anyway,
now we're being insulting.
Now we're just being mean to Cameron's. Well, since
they are only selling it for $5 whatever in the store.
So since we spent like 30 minutes making fun of Cameron's, let's spend at least a few minutes giving people some interesting coffee facts.
Top 10.
Top 10. All right, so because this ended up being this was not planned. Like we didn't know this was going to be a coffee podcast.
I wanted to get serious about something, but I guess not.
Which you know what? We'll see. We'll see how fast we get through the top 10. So these are top 10 interesting coffee facts, part 2.
Because we've done one before.
We have done one before. Number 1: regularly drinking coffee may have health benefits such. Oh boy, hold on. I gotta. You know what? Okay. Normally I have water here.
No, but now it's milk.
I have no water, and my tongue was all dry, so I had to take a big drink of milk.
We got water in a faucet.
All right, number 1. Regularly drinking coffee may have health benefits, such as reduced risk of illnesses like cancer, heart disease, and Alzheimer's.
Wow, really?
So if you're looking for a reason to take up coffee, people, and I'll be honest with you, like, we all worry about things like cancer, heart disease. Alzheimer's scares me, which is really funny because it doesn't make sense. Because if I have it, I don't know I have it. But I
think in the early stages or middle stages, whatever, I think people do, and that's a really sad thing to see because people know what they're supposed to know. Eventually, they don't, I think, but they know what they're supposed to know, and they know they're missing something, and that one scares me a bit too because 3 out of my 4 grandparents, that's the way things are, and I've got,
Well, so
if it runs in the family.
Well, let's try to perk this up. Well, so there you go. I'm all for that. So if I'm not all for Alzheimer's. I'm all for
preventing
it,
slowing it.
So I'm going to drink lots of coffee from now on. Number 2, in 1932, Brazil didn't have enough funds to send its athletes to the Olympics. So the athletes had to earn the money themselves by selling coffee.
Wow.
So people from Brazil actually selling Brazilian coffee to go to the Olympics. That's kind of cool.
I'm writing this down. Like Girl Scouts.
Yeah, unlike like when a kid comes to your house, like, "Hi, sir, would you like to buy some?" I'm like, "No,
send me to the Olympics, please, sir."
Oh, well, I mean, maybe
you got coffee. What kind of coffee you got there? You got those Thin Mint coffees.
Thin Mint coffees.
Those coconut ones.
My wife actually just bought like 20 boxes of Girl Scout cookies, which I hate because I've been eating them.
Oh.
And I'm getting fatter. Number 3, before people learned how to brew coffee, East African tribes mixed coffee berries with animal fat and consumed it as food. So there were a lot of people in Africa, in East Africa, that were just like, I don't understand why I can't sleep. I don't understand why I'm getting full, but I'm like always awake. I don't know what the heck's going on.
I don't know how to write that one down, so I'm not going to write it
down. Yeah. Number 4.
Okay. There's
2 main categories of coffee: Robusta and Arabica. I'm just going to say it's Arabica. I actually don't know how to pronounce that. I'll have to
Now you have me wondering. I'm not even going to try.
Robusta coffee has a more acidic and harsh flavor with a high level of caffeine.
Okay.
Arabica is known for its delicate flavor and lower acidity. So,
based on that description, why would anybody drink the Robusta? Who goes,
You know what?
You know what I want? I want that acidic.
Honestly, so we go through that company Trade Coffee.
Yeah.
And they're actually way more, like you and I think you and I are actually more, even though we've been doing more flavored coffee, I think you and I do prefer a more well-rounded, non-acidic, smooth coffee, where a lot of people like a real high acidity, there are a lot of, like, if you look through the list of all the coffees that people make, a lot of them have more of a real tangy, fruity, like that's what they like.
Right.
They like that high acidity. So,
well, let's try high-end high acidity. Maybe we go, oh, this is where it's at. It's kind of like people who swear by dry wine.
We might have to give it a shot. Never know. Number 5, globally, people consume about 2.25 billion with a B cups of coffee every day.
Whoa.
So globally, the entire world, we drink 2.25 billion cups of coffee a day.
Holy smokes.
And Rob's only responsible for like half that. So he drinks 1.125 billion cups a day.
keeping the industry in business.
Number 6, coffee stays warmer about 20% longer when you add cream.
What?
Yeah. My guess is because of the well,
it's nuclear reaction.
Yeah, I would have to think so. It's some sort of reaction because
it like insulates it or something.
It must be because cream is thicker.
So,
I don't know.
Okay, so initially the cream has to cool it down.
I wonder if it.
So, like, if you were to put it on a scale, like here's the hot, coffee that you can't even touch with your lips. Here does the cream. The cream knocks the temperature down, but it starts to drop slower. The hot coffee.
I'm assuming that's
drops.
what it is. Is wherever the temperature is that the cream gets to once you've added it.
You can't see my hands doing the analogy that I'm talking.
Rob
about.
is talking he's very
wild with my hands.
But no, we'll have, maybe we should maybe
I don't know. I guess I could see that, but it's surprising because how cool the coffee gets when you add cream, because it just knocks that initial temperature down quite a bit. But then I can believe that it hangs out there for a while.
Well, here's one. So apparently we're doing it all wrong though.
Uh-oh.
Number 7, coffee is most effective if you drink it between 9:30 and 11:30 a.m. So we've already messed up. We drank it before 9:30.
Not much though.
Not a whole lot.
8:40 actually when we started.
Okay. Number 8, studies have shown that drinking coffee may lower your risk of depression. Well,
I guarantee that. I mean,
first of all, it perks you up. I mean, it definitely, it's an upper for sure. Much like, the caffeine, which actually I want to try this, by the way.
Okay.
We haven't, I'm normally not a huge fan of decaf, but I think we might have to try a decaf.
Oh,
we have to. We have to. Otherwise, we're not being true, Rob. We're not being good to the people. We're not giving them a.
Well, except that you can almost always guarantee that if you have this kind of coffee and then a decaf version of that coffee, the decaf version sucks.
Well, the decaf is usually almost like the muted. What's the muted version of its? It's like it's. Of its original.
You ever watch Gordon Ramsay, the chef?
I have watched Gordon Ramsay.
Amazingly, the guy's the real deal, because he can go to some restaurant, he can go, tastes all right, but this was frozen, wasn't it? And they're like, it was frozen. So something about it, he can just tell this was frozen. That's like decaf coffee. It's like you drink, if you're used to coffee, you like coffee. Even if you drink tons and tons of one bean coffee, you get a decaf, you go, this is decaf.
This might be an interesting experiment. We might have to make a
decaf?
couple. Well, no, we might have to make a couple and go, Rob,
taste test.
Which one is the decaf? Number 9, contrary to popular belief, dark roast and light roast coffee, light roast coffee actually have a similar amount of caffeine.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
So dark roast, light roast, very close in caffeine, so don't let somebody be like, it's just a light roast, don't worry about it. It's like, well,
I don't know why it'd be different. Because
I suppose with the roasting process, perhaps because the more you roast a bean, because that does raise the acidity, it does raise the flavor profile. Maybe people think it raises the caffeine. I don't know. I wouldn't think so.
That one doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's like, we say a lot of these. Oh, they're interesting. This one, I would have expected that.
So this one might throw you. So
this is number 10?
This is number 10. And before I tell you exactly what it is,
okay,
let me ask you this. How old do you think the average barista is in the United States? Like what, 14? No, I'm just kidding. But like, what do you think the average age, more than likely, probably like what, 22, 23 maybe?
No, I'm going to say 31.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So the average barista's age in Italy is 48 years old.
Wow.
So I would have to think that Italy probably takes their coffee pretty seriously. Not to say that younger people don't. Like, I'm sure there are people like now in their 20s that are like, hey, you know what? Forget you. I'm 27. I like coffee. I'm like, no.
So if you could, it's kind of like walking onto a construction site. I don't know how many construction sites you've been on. And construction crews, a lot of construction business owners, they give out jobs to teenagers, like, yeah, you can come work for me. But you always know you got a construction crew with a 16-year-old on it, And it's like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. He's carrying a saw around. It's like, you just give me that.
Why is he carrying it by the blade?
Yeah, I know. So that must be what it's like to see a 20-year-old barista in Italy. It's like seeing a 16-year-old on a construction site.
It's probably even worse than that. It's probably like looking. It's like,
all you guys who are 16, I do fully support you getting construction jobs, by the way.
yes, very much so. Good pay, good learning experience.
And if you're 20 years old, I do support you going and becoming a barista.
Absolutely.
There's just a level of knowledge. There's a level of expertise. There's a level of prowess that let's just face it, you ain't got it yet. You will.
You ain't got that coffee prowess, son.
And maybe you're really good at this stuff and you can accelerate very fast. But you're going to have to live with the fact that people are used to 16-year-olds on construction sites being idiots.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, I just thought that was interesting because I was like, 48. Holy moly.
48, not...
And that's the average. 48. 48. Did you say, I think, 38?
Well, I had it, yeah. Here's my math, right?
48. So just under 50, that is the average barista.
So I can see it. I can see it two ways. One is that they take it super seriously, like I was saying, that no, we don't want no 16-year-old on a construction site kind of thing. Or is it just something people tend to do in their, like, in the latter years of their career? Like, they've made all their money. They're looking for a different pace in life. They hang up the suit coat, put on the apron.
Well, and there's something to be said for, now don't get me wrong, look, I love America. I'm American. America. But there's something to be said, but people kind of often forget that America is very young. We are insanely young as a country.
That's true.
Where, Scotland, Ireland, just Europe, England, Italy, France, these are old countries.
Yeah.
And so their traditions have been passed down for not just decades, but centuries. So you got like these people in Italy who, and the way they make coffee is probably completely different. They actually, like you've probably seen videos where people do where like they do like I don't remember what it's called, but it's like the really slow drip.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that.
I do that with my
that's probably how they do things all the time.
Yeah,
or they go to like really great, like it's like, have you ever gone somewhere where like a not necessarily a fancier restaurant, but just like maybe it's Italian run or it's Greek run or whatever, and you can tell there's a huge difference between, like, I've gone places where you bite into the bread and you're thinking, oh, it's just gonna be bread. They bring out bread, in most restaurants, it's fine. And you take a first bite and it's nothing like you've ever tasted.
It's heaven.
It's literally like, I've gone to a couple restaurants where I try the bread and I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever had. It's just bread. It's just plain Jane white bread, but it's unbelievable because like you don't taste chemicals. Like you taste that this person,
love and the care.
You taste that this person got up at 2:30 this morning and started kneading this dough. And that's when I think of an Italian barista, that's what I think of. I'm like, this guy was here at 4:00 this morning roasting these beans or something.
So in Italy, evidently, you might be a 34-year-old corporate executive. You drive a Rolls Royce or something, and it's like, you know what I want to be when I grow up? I want to be. And
they probably didn't call them baristas. They're probably like, there's probably like some super fancy Italian name, like, hey, Giuseppe, did you roast the beans? I don't even know what that was.
That's like, what I want to do when I grow up. Like, you're running a Fortune 500 corporation. It's like, well, this is just to get me on my feet.
Well, I wonder, what that might have been the most insulting. Do you ever notice as Americans, and like this is where I'm gonna tear myself down for being American a little bit. The stereotypes we sometimes come up with for other countries, like oh yeah, it's I bet most of them don't sound anything like that. Or if you talk to, like, I've actually met French people from France.
Yeah.
And I'm like, does it bother me? People are like, oh, ha, ha. It's like, yes, I've never went, oh, ha, ha. I've never met anyone who does that.
It's the way we react when people refer to the movie Fargo.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, sure. Well, but here's the thing, though. That happens here. Like, people do say, oh, yeah, sure, and you betcha. Or like, oofda.
I will say, because fans of the movie Fargo, not all of us sound that way. We might all sound a little like that.
In fact, well, like we do tend to elongate our O's.
Well, for sure.
Or, certain things.
We might all sound a little like that. But a little of us sound a lot like that.
But like Frances McDormand in that movie is all like, oh, yeah, you sure, and yeah, ha, man.
Oh, it was very much
like,
exaggerated.
Whoa, yeah.
We all know that lady.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and I think we talked about this on a podcast before. Like that generation, though. Like once that generation's gone,
Yeah, that's true.
That might all go.
They're probably the sons and daughters of real Scandinavian immigrants who, they grew up a little confused between their parents speaking the original language, and then everybody else coming through. You know, yeah, we're losing that.
Well, I asked my wife's grandmother. She actually went to Norway a year ago, 2 years ago. And because I asked her, I was like, I have to know.
Yeah.
While you were in Norway, like anybody, oh yeah, oofda, sure. And she's like, no, they don't really talk. I'm like, so it must be like a weird. So it was when Norwegian Scandinavians came here.
Yep.
And so it was like a weird mutt Americanized version of their accent with, how people spoke here. And it just became a thing. So I don't know.
Well, and it turns out our traditional, like if you're familiar with Scandinavian traditional foods, like what we would call traditional foods, like lutefisk and lefse.
Lefse's okay.
Right, lefse. No, lutefisk is not okay. But somebody that I know who went over to Norway said that they brought up lefse over in Norway, and they don't know what it is.
Interesting.
And so it makes me think that either it's a bygone thing there, like we would be shocked, I'm sure, if we knew what was normal food in America for Americans like 100 years ago.
So maybe what it is, maybe lefse is an Americanized version, or maybe it's just something that was
like what was that? Like there's some sort of dish that we would eat in America, like they would serve in schools or something, was like corn mixed in like cream of mushroom soup or something, some crazy icky thing, and that was like 100 years ago. The normal food people ate was really weird. That might be what some of these things were over in Norway, but they brought them over here and cherished them.
I can see that.
And so they raised their families to cherish awful things like lutefisk.
Well, so I have Irish in my blood, and one of my favorites, like this was a common thing for Irish workers back in the day, is they would literally, all it was just potatoes, so boiled potatoes, cabbage, and butter. And then, so they would just throw like a stick of butter, and they would bring it to work in a pail, so that you could put it over a fire and cook, and cook it or whatever. Yeah. And I love that. Just those three things: butter, potatoes, and cabbage. Like I could eat that all day long. It's very. I'm sure for most people, like that's super bland, but that was like kind of a staple for a working Irishman then. But it's well, okay. Look at Italian food. We're talking about Italy.
Yep.
In Italy, everything is very oil based. Everything's very vegetable based.
Yeah.
Herbs. Here, like if you were to go to the dollar store version of Italian food. Here it would be Olive Garden.
Yeah.
Which, not knocking Olive Garden, also not a sponsor, probably not now.
No.
But everything there is very Americanized. Because first of all, in Italy, they don't, cream sauces are not a thing. It's that's an American thing. Like we're like, wait, how many sticks of butter are in that? None? Let's add 7. Like that's, we want it to be like that. So like
Alfredo sauce.
Well, from what I understand, like a friend of mine when I was growing up, his mom was 100% Italian, and she'd be like, "Oh, you want?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I would love some food." And like it took me a while to get used to, but I mean, it literally was like just soaked in olive oil, and then it would have like fresh vegetables and like had more of like an earthy, kind of vibe. And after a while, you're like, "Oh, this is really good," but it's not at all what you're expecting.
And I think if we're just being honest with ourselves, if we were to immigrate to another planet and we were to establish our traditional food on that planet and help introduce that planet's people to our traditional food, let's just face it, it'd be McDonald's.
Probably pretty close.
So let's say, hey, those Earthlings, they brought their traditional food. It's called McDonald's.
They're like, what is this? Well, it's a traditional American food from the planet Earth. What is it called? I believe it's a beige. It's a beige mash. A beige mash. Like we try to really gussy it up.
2 all beef patties, special sauce, less cheese,
pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
That's our modern lutefisk.
That's what's funny is like when we colonize. First of all, you guys will be able to hear this podcast when Rob and I colonize Mars. But when we go, that'll actually be like that'll be our national anthem. We're like 2 all beef patty, special sauce.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing. Well, first of all, I want to apologize to Rob. We didn't get into what we were gonna talk about.
I had it all written out. No, I didn't.
I feel bad.
That's all right.
Well, maybe maybe we will touch on it. Maybe we won't.
We make a big deal about it on the podcast. We're just having a conversation.
We are, and so every now and again, you guys will get one of these where, yeah,
it's starting to be more often than not.
So we'll have to buckle. We got to buckle down on the next one.
Yeah.
Got to grab that belt and buckle down.
I'm okay with that.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Cameron's, if you're listening, I'm sure you didn't.
Ben enjoyed this podcast a little less than our usual podcast.
Yeah. Well, no.
Because of the
yeah. I enjoyed the beverage that I drank way less than normal.
That's what I mean.
But the conversation was good. I had a good time. Did you have a good time?
I did. And actually I didn't hate the beverage like you did, but then like my motto, I've said it before, bad coffee is better than no coffee.
That's your motto?
When it comes to coffee.
Oh.
Actually, why don't we just make that my life motto?
That's
you know what rule Rob lives by? Bad coffee is better than no coffee. Actually, everybody who knows me would go, that's Rob.
What's the motto? Nothing. What's the motto with you? Add the rim shot. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. If you're listening to this and you have been following what we've been doing, listening to all the podcasts, thank you. We appreciate you.
Totally.
Continue, you guys, asking questions on social media, emails, all that good stuff. You've heard it. You know what's going on. So we'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you for listening. My name is Ben Knight.
I'm Rob Royce.